But I was asked here today to talk about the transition from volume-based healthcare to value-based healthcare and really what that looks like. For those folks who drove in today, you've got to feed the meter. If you went out at 2 o'clock, you're about to expire. And the parking attendants are absolutely ruthless. I've ranked up a lot of tickets. Again, so hopefully you've had a chance to fill up on some coffee. I know I did. I'm like jittery at this point, and I also grabbed a little bit of a snack, but they were not cookies. And I know that half of you will be on social media in like 5 minutes. So that's quite all right. Just go to the Twine Health Instagram page. That is our CEO, proving that he can walk the dog with a yo-yo while skateboarding, which is, I guess, the most startup thing you can possibly do. OK, the lights are going to go off in just a second. So today happens to be my daughter Petra's first birthday. I unfortunately was not able to see her before I left this morning. She was still asleep. So I'm going to do something completely insane. And I'm going to Facebook Live a bunch of strangers saying happy birthday to Petra. So this is going to give me a countdown. So 3, 2, 1. Everybody say happy birthday, Petra. Ready? Let's see. All right. OK. 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday, Petra.
All right. If that doesn't say love, I'm not sure what does. OK. So healthcare reform. A lot of people talk about healthcare reform and moving from these payments of paying per episodic visit to the doctor to saying, OK, let's keep patients healthy. But I think it's worthwhile to take a step back or forward. There we go. So think about what is healthcare, because it's massive, right? $3 trillion. That's a 3 followed by 12 zeros. But all right, I'm among friends here. I was in advertising. I was a copywriter. I don't know what the hell $3 trillion looks like. So of course I Googled it and found out that $10,000 is 100 $100 bills, roughly a half-inch thick. Right, you can stuff a few of those in your pockets. $1 million doesn't look like much of anything. It's $110,000 stacks. In order to move that around, you could probably grab a duffel bag, hop on a skateboard. If you're feeling, like you want to grab a few more, grab a couple of hatchbacks. $100 million, you got to grab a pallet jack and definitely got to get a van or maybe a box truck to start moving these things around. However, you get to $1 billion, you better start calling friends, especially if they have a truck and a sweet ride to make a getaway. $10 billion. So this is Tide, I guess. Yeah, somewhere in that, no, Pampers, somewhere in that neighborhood. You're talking like Scrooge McDuck territory. You're skiing down money. This is $1 trillion. Notice the little guy for scale. So this is $1,000 billion stacked in hundreds. And this is healthcare every single year. That's bananas, right? I mean, who would have thought that we'd spend that much money every year on healthcare? And I'll get to what's really shocking about that in a couple of minutes. But it's no wonder why two of the most valuable companies in the world, including our gracious host today, and Mark, I'm sure will speak more about this later on, are getting into the healthcare business by strapping devices to your wrist to say what the hell is going on with your body every single day. You can make very valuable interventions with patients and be able to really do some cool things in healthcare by having all that data. Today, not much is happening. The average lifespan of a Fitbit before it ends up in the drawer is 90 days. The people that wear on a continuous basis are typically athletes trying to get better performance out of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So we haven't reached the tipping point there yet. On the other side of consumer healthcare of moving healthcare transactions online, you've got things like telehealth that are allowing doctors and patients to connect over time and distance through video, text chat, things of that nature. There's definitely value there. There will be a few million visits this year through some sort of device. And they cover things like UTI and pink eye and sinus infection, kind of the top 10 urgent care conditions. That's really what's treated with these telehealth visits. And it's really kind of the vitality textbook model of the young invincibles, young executives, busy parents, people who don't really have a lot of chronic conditions, but they want to get these healthcare conditions taken care of pretty quickly. So again, there's value in these things, but they really haven't hit the nut. Now, there's no shortage of people trying to get into the game with some sort of consumer technology application. I'm sure there are a lot of people in the audience who've written statements like this, myself included. that are insane. But of course, who doesn't want to be the next Google or the next Amazon or the next Netflix? There's a really big opportunity out there. But the most pervasive, ubiquitous healthcare technology that's in existence today is the EMR. And what this represents is an ability to collect a bunch of data so that a provider organization can bill an insurance company for that visit. That's healthcare technology. That is the express problem with healthcare today. So what we're trying to do in healthcare is move from this concept of fee-for-service episodic healthcare to value-based healthcare. So paying doctors to keep patients healthier rather than paying them when they show up in the office in the ER and specialists and procedures, blah, 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 blah. It's kind of hard to do. The whole concept of keeping people healthy is really not in play today whatsoever. It's you have a problem, you go to the doctor, you get treated. So again, $3 trillion. We talked about the existing opportunity of consumer healthcare with things like Fitbits and telehealth and all those things. But they really ignore the huge picture, which is the $2.6 trillion spent on people with at least one chronic condition. The real sad thing is only about 30% of people with a chronic condition are walking around controlled. 70% are not. So we're spending 400% more than, say, the UK, which is typically the highest rated healthcare system in the world, per capita. So about $8,500 per capita compared to $3,500, and we've got 30% of people are healthy. It's broken. So what's happening? The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services are really, they're doing their best to steer this $3 trillion ship in the right direction. So by the end of this year, they'll be moving about 30% of payments to value-based contracts. And typically these are incentive-based contracts. So I forget, somebody was mentioning it earlier, maybe Brent, about checking a box on, does this person have depression? Have you weighed them? Have you done this, that, and the other thing? Things that aren't really outcomes. Lowering blood pressure, lowering blood glucose, getting people actually healthy. So while there are a lot of payments that are moving to this kind of value-based care system, they're kind of falling short on metrics that actually indicate that something is working. And with the continued reform of healthcare, about 50% of value-based payments will be moving towards these models in 2018. So what's happening? Are we just kind of everybody blowing smoke? Is there really not value-based care happening? Where do we lie with this? So there are a lot of organizations that are kind of under the radar a little bit at this point in time that are dipping their toe into value-based care where it makes sense, not only so they can be ready when CMS flips the switch and starts paying doctors for actual outcomes, but they're also finding opportunities to use this in private medicine, specifically self-insured employers. So you've got health systems that are starting to look at their own employed populations who they're fully at risk for. So a health system has 15,000 employees, maybe 23,000 beneficiaries. They're at risk for those people. They have a big pool of money that pays for their health care. If they can drive down that cost of care, they actually save money. So they're finding opportunities to do this. Now something else is going on. Health systems and health plans are starting to get really hyper-competitive, and nowhere is it kind of more obvious and pertinent is in Pittsburgh. So Highmark, in case you don't know, is a Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance company. UPMC is a health system. So a couple of years ago, UPMC started offering insurance services. So they built their own product and started offering it in the marketplace. Highmark's like, what the hell are you doing? Highmark buys up a provider group. And so now you start to see this really hyper-competitive market between organizations that typically they didn't like each other before, but they certainly weren't competitive. And so now you're seeing this again and again and again in the marketplace, and it's all in order to get to the almighty dollar, the number one payer besides CMS, self-insured employers. So this innovation is coming, it's happening, it's definitely real. Okay, so you've got business models that make sense, you've got CMS kind of chugging along and trying to get there. Okay, now what, right? There are people incented to do this. So the common terminology and the reason I was asked to speak today, to improve care and move to value-based payments is to say, okay, we've got to have a better patient experience. We've got to have better outcomes. We can't just kind of keep people from coming in and then they come back in a couple of years in the ER and have these very expensive procedures. and we have to decrease costs. So those are the three facets of the triple aim. Dr. Halamka argues for something different, as do I, and I'm sure many other people do, and the folks from STAT in the room, I'm sure, agree with this. We've got to focus on the quadruple aim, because if we don't have doctors who want to practice medicine, and we don't give them the tools and resources to do this very well, they're going to leave, right? So Halamka said, as a practicing clinician for 30 years, I can honestly say that it's time to leave the profession if we stay on the current trajectory. That's bad news. That's Beth Israel. I mean, we can't let this happen. So, good thing is, when you do give doctors the incentives and the tools and the resources to do good healthcare, they get really, really pumped. This is a picture of two physicians from an independent physician association in Tennessee. They got an award for having the best readmission rate among 1,000, per 1,000 members, or something of that nature. And you can see they've got the tally behind them. They're hypertensive patients, they're diabetic patients, and they're really psyched about this. When was the last time you saw your doctor do this? When was the last time you saw your doctor's face, period? So it's possible, right? This is not an illusion. Everybody thinks that we can do this. We have to focus on all four areas. Again, we're moving in the right direction. So what do we do now? So my CEO, John Moore, CEO of Twine Health, was a physician, and he was practicing medicine in Baltimore at Johns Hopkins University, working with HIV patients. And he was getting just utterly burnt out and frustrated that patients would come in, they go back to the real world, they wouldn't follow the advice, they'd be worse off, they come back to the doctor's office and you really try to work with them, and then they leave and they go home. Well, I mean, again, it's not that big of a surprise that you kind of grill somebody with a bunch of ideas in a very tense, scary moment, and they go back into the real world and they don't follow any of that. So he left medicine. He went down the street to MIT and got a PhD studying health psychology and learning science. And so he found a couple of very obvious but some key attributes of healthcare delivery that actually make sense. So I'll share with you a few of these learnings. And some of these things, as marketers, you want to pay attention to, because this is really how we move the needle with patients and patient engagement, empowerment, and things of that nature. First and foremost, does this guy look like the guy from Breaking Bad? I had a half-hour discussion whether or not it was. I still think it is. In any case, so empowerment is a really overused term, but it does have its merits. If you want to change healthcare, you have to change the philosophical belief that the patient has the power to become self-efficacious. They're the only ones who are going to change healthcare. You can't surround them with an army of doctors and say that person's going to get better if they don't believe in it. So the doctor has to believe in it, the team has to believe it, the organization has to believe that the patient is the one that holds the power. Second, you got to get back to primary care. Health systems have spent decades and billions of dollars building large specialty surgery centers because that's where the money was. In a fee-for-service world, you get 40 grand for an orthopedic type of event, right? Knee surgery, hip, spine, whatever. That's good money, that's big business. Why would you ever stop that? Well, in a value-based world, when the doctor and the provider organization eats that cost, they gotta start thinking back upstream, back up to primary care, give these people the tools to actually enact change before these adverse events happen. Well, not only do you have to kind of go back to this model of the doctor-patient relationship in traditional primary care medicine, but you also really have to change how that interaction works. The patient sitting in the corner while the doctor says, "God damn it, you gotta do all these things and get better and be fit and eat better and be healthier." It doesn't work. So I was just reading an article that 40 to 80% of patients forget what the doctor said immediately. Literally immediately. Like, hey, go eat an apple. What? So the paradigm just doesn't work. The other thing I read was half of patients remember things incorrectly. So the people that actually remember it don't remember the right thing anyway. So this model doesn't work. You really have to surround the patient outside of the office. Health happens between visits. It doesn't happen in that periodic interval of once, twice, 3 times a year. The other thing you have to do, and somebody mentioned this earlier, is embrace the caregivers. The caregivers are the people who are with the patients day in, day out, day in, day out. Those are the ones that want their loved one to be healthy, and they can help them make those really small, minor changes that do exponentially lead to better health, and I'll share a little example of that in a bit. One of the other things to really keep in mind are the social determinants of health. This is a picture from a National Geographic article called Hunger in the Homeland, or something of that nature. People who they work 2 jobs, they have a couple of kids, they get home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. They're naturally not going to sit there and cook up the healthiest meal in the world. They might swing by McDonald's on the way home, or grab some soda or whatever's in the fridge. If people in the care team don't address that, and they don't acknowledge that, and they don't get to the heart of what makes that person tick, and what are the behaviors they're taking, and give them different options that they can take, it's not going to happen. And again, it's not that we can solve the world's problems, but we can help them make incrementally better choices if you listen. If you understand what's going on in their life, and they have some sort of ongoing communication with you, you can help them through these rough patches, and give them the confidence that they can succeed. Remember that people are individuals. Not everyone is going to respond to go out and run a 5K. There might be people who barely get out of the house now. Maybe they have a dog. Get them to walk around their neighborhood once or twice. Think about those things that make people tick in their daily lives, where they can start to institute some of these changes. Okay, so we work with an organization called Carolina's Healthcare System. We're one of the top 20 largest healthcare systems in the country. And they're taking this very seriously. They have a group called Proactive Health that is a primary care practice dedicated to figuring out value-based care. It looks really, 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 really different. So, of course, there's the front desk person, the medical assistant, the doctor, the nurse, but there's diabetes educators, there's nutritionists, there's fitness coaches, there's health coaches. And not only that, they all work together. They have a sense of shared responsibility. They have shared goals. They have objectives that are really transparent to everybody, because they work together to improve the health of the population. They don't just go through patients. They're not on the treadmill to try to crank out as many billable visits as they can. And they've been doing this for a little while, and they're really starting to have some incredible success with it. So there's a patient. His name's Tim. He's a 55-year-old construction worker. He's got a really stressful job. I mean, he's been on and off blood pressure medication for about 5 years, because his BP is 170 over 115, which is really high. As John mentioned earlier, that's bad news. You're on the kind of the highway to some sort of cardiac event pretty quickly. So this is in the top left corner is where he started. And the only thing that his doctor had him do was measure his blood pressure once a day and take his blood pressure medication every time at the same day. This is a guy who struggled for 5 years with taking his blood pressure medication. So he started doing that, started taking his medication every day. Within the first week, he knows his blood pressure dropped a couple of points. So he's like, all right, this is cool. I can figure this out. I don't feel like I'm kind of sitting here and not making any progress. I really feel like I'm making some action here without really doing a whole lot. So they got him on a couple of regimens of walk around the block twice a week, smoke 3 less cigarettes at your cigarette break for the entire week. Very, very minor steps. And in between this, had one-off text message exchanges with his health coach. And this is about 21 months or so worth of data. During this time, he would have had somewhere in the area of 2 to 4 visits with his doctor. Instead, he had 57 text message exchanges with his health coach, and has been maintaining this for nearly 2 years after 5 years of completely failing to be able to control his blood pressure. So these are things that seem kind of the legit things to be able to accomplish. Walk around the house, smoke fewer cigarettes, measure your blood pressure. This isn't some sort of crazy, newfangled medication. These are the same old medications that he's using, And what we've shown is 300 to 400% improvement in outcomes in hypertension and diabetes with Mass General and Joslin Diabetes Center, respectively. A third cost reduction over traditional care, so this costs less, and patient satisfaction increases 500%. So, it seems hard, right? There's a lot going on to influence how we move from volume to value. But when you kind of come down to the brass tacks and you put the tools in doctors' hands and you give patients the power and you ensure that they don't feel alone in this journey, they're actually able to do it. All right, so this is an advertising conference. I feel like if I didn't share any wisdom about advertising, I'd be doing a disservice. So this is twine. I just needed some wallpaper. We just moved to the Kendall Boiler and Tank Company over on 3rd and Benet, which is a cool place. It's actually what Kendall's named after, or so I'm told. Snail mail is back. 75% of people open their mail. What percent do you think open their email? I know you all know this. Rhetorical question. No one, right? We actually had one client with a 17% enrollment rate from just sending an email, or sending a piece of mail the day before Christmas. 17%. It's completely insane. The term doctor approved, you would never do that, actually works. When patients feel like their doctor's behind something and they're encouraging them to do it and they've got their back, it really does help. In fact, I did a study once about people's willingness to have a video visit with a doctor in place of an in-person visit, and about 70% of people said they would do it. About 80% say they would do it if their doctor said it was okay. So, and good intentions only go so far. I helped launch, when United Healthcare and Pacific Care merged, I helped launch the Secure Horizons product with some ad and direct mail campaigns. And we did a focus group test to see what photos people responded to. And without any sort of hitch, people always picked the photos of people who were 10 years younger than they were to represent them. So always skew younger in your picture selection. Humor and healthcare mix, only when done well. If you do it poorly, it's a complete flop. Kind of avoid cheese and avoid smarmy, kind of find a natural middle ground there. And everything else, so keep it real. All right, that's it. Thank you.